The Workers' City group started off with the treatment the council were giving Elspeth King and Michael Donnelly of the People's Palace, who had been treated grossly unfairly by a Labour-led council of Pat Lally, the notorious kind of machine politician. This would have been in the run-up to 1990s. I think it was 1988 as the whole thing started off. We had concurrently been working on a book with my good friend Farke McLeay. It was a book called Workers' City that contained a number of different aspects, fiction and non-fiction, present and past, of different people associated with Glasgow and their ideas about growing up in Glasgow and what it meant to them. So there was a group involved with Workers' City that started off, people that were involved in the Friends of the People's Palace. And then we had a joint meeting with the Free University, who included folk like Jim Kelman, I think Tom Leonard, and people like that. I personally wasn't involved with the Free University, but people like Keith Miller, Malcolm Dixon, and as I said, Jim Kelman and many others, mostly based around about the university area, the west end of Glasgow. But they were doing a good job, and it was a successful meeting, and we got together and we started having regular meetings in the wee alcove at the Scotia Bar. And there was often a very packed alcove that was stretched out by the alcove right into the pub, and it was always stowed with people giving their opinions about everything. So it was a very, very lively atmosphere. We had a meeting at the old motoring club. I don't know if it's still there, but it was a very useful meeting where a lot of folk that hadn't previous experience of working together got together, and it really helped develop the whole campaign. And the first action we took was a picket of The Word and the Stones, which was a big exhibition where the Arches used to be based in underneath the Central Station. And there was a lot of people in the kind of arts community that felt that the folk involved with the Word and the Stone were like scabs, because they were taking advantage of taking the money for Culture City without questioning what it was all about. So that was a lively, successful picket that involved folk like Farke and Jim Kelman and I think Tom Leonard was there as well, and many others. So that was the first public appearance of the Workers' City, which we had many other subsequent things happening in the streets. They had folk like Ned Donaldson, Les Foster and Hugh Savage, who are all very closely associated with Harry McShane, who of course was the lieutenant of John Maclean way back in the days of the Red Clydeside. So they were very pleased to have them involved, because they represented a strand going back all the way to the days of the Red Clydeside. I was always very impressed with the fact that the pensioners that you think were maybe stuck in their ways and all the rest of it were up for doing lively things. For instance, Ned Donaldson got us to forge a press pass so he could get into council meetings and report in council meetings, and give him a shuriken as well. So that was a lot of good fun involved with it as well. It's a very serious topic, because the council were hell bent on reshaping the city, but we had a lot of good fun as well in all the adventures we had taking on the council. The other big thing that we were involved with was the Save Glasgow Green campaign, and it wasn't the Glasgow part of the Glasgow Green that we're now involved in trying to save, like the Winter Gardens. It was the Red Blaze Pictures, which the council had drawn up a plan for a multiplex cinema that was going to be taking over that whole area, and there was another good lively campaign associated with that. So there's a lot of spin-off campaigns, which is very good, and I just like to see that the present day Keelie that's inherited some of the traditions of the old Workers' City group and the old Glasgow Keelie. I like to think that we take part in many different community campaigns in the spirit of the original group.
So when was the Keelie? That was round about 1990?
1990, once the city culture kicked off, there was just as lively a campaign in the part of the Workers' City, with the city covered in stickers and posters and stuff, and we attended a lot of the events, and I think there was very well kept in the city that there was an opposition to the culture city, and folk, particularly the Herald was a much better paper in those days. The editor was much more sympathetic for having debates and things, and they used to say that there'd be more debate in the letters pages about the 1990 and the culture city than there had been in the Herald since the 1950s and the Billy Graham, when Billy Graham came to Glasgow, and there was a big reaction to his evangelical campaign. So I could definitely say there was a real debate in the city about what kind of direction you wanted Glasgow to go to, what was really going on in the city. Was it meant for the tourists and for the investment bankers, or was it meant for the people of Glasgow?
Also around the same time, according to Elspeth King, who was the curator of People's Palace then, who got sacked, which was part of the stooshy that was going on at the time, but she was talking about the different artists who, even like Billy Connolly and Alistair Gray and people like that, were kind of non-artists as far as Kelvin Grove was concerned.
Right.
You know, but they were fervent supporters of the Winter Gardens.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of people who are kind of like held in high esteem, but they were very involved in the People's Palace. These campaigns around it.
That's right. We had a number of different folk involved. The Dominic Behan, the brother of Brian Behan, he was involved with us as well, and we got a petition going to save the Glasgow Green. He asked his friend Spike Milligan to get involved, and he signed a letter as well. And then someone said, well, maybe we should ask Spike Milligan to ask his old pal Prince Charles to sign it as well. But then we all went, nah. So that was thrown out very quickly.
He's now the king now, you know, you could have been in there a shout.
No, I think Spike Milligan made his feelings felt about Prince Charles in those days. Just said he was an old tosser or something, or a young tosser, and of course Prince Charles laughed at it and thought it was very funny. But he was on our side. Some of the stuff we did was in the spirit of Spike Milligan, I think.
So there was a gap between how long did the Keelie go for?
The Keelie went on to about 1992. There was a number of different things happening as well, in parallel with the Workers' City group as well. There was other big events in the middle of the Thatcher period, of course, and the poll tax was in full swing as well, and we are a full participant in the poll tax campaigns and appeared at all the demos with the Keelie, and there was the anti-war things going on as well. So there was a lot going on at the time. Lively feeling in the city of things were happening. Then after that, of course, there was a long period of the things that weren't really too interested to us, like Brexit and the EU and Scottish nationalism, stuff that wasn't too much of interest to us. But I'm glad to see that things are getting back to what they should be about talking about now, what's going on in the real world, what's going on in the working class, and what's going on in the schemes of the city and everything. So things are finally, after a long gap, getting back to what they really should be about. And I'd like to think we're playing a part in it with the strikes and everything that are going on at the moment.
The other thing you could maybe talk about is the DIY attitude to the thing. You know, because that's what I always remember back then. There was, you know, you had venture playgrounds or whatever, If you wanted to make a film, if you wanted to make a play, you got a joiner and somebody that could write some stuff down. You had a play because you never had all this like the health and safety. And you can see wee elements of that coming in just now. You know, with the Keelie, you know, with banner making and stuff, and you know, just doing things. And then again, there's a lot of pensioners involved today as well.
Well, one of the things that's always inspired me was a French revolutionary paper that started off in 1789. Le Père, Father something. I'll need to get the proper name for it. But it started off in 1789. It was very bloodthirsty, but it was a voice for the people, and there was a mass circulation within Paris at the time. And then the guy that started it off got guillotined, so that was the end of that. But then in 1848, the paper reappeared again, and that during another revolutionary period, and then after that revolution was suppressed, that disappeared, only for it to reappear again in 1871 in the Paris Commune. So I would like to think that the Keelie would go, although they weren't kind of revolutions or anything like that, I'd like to think that another generation, the first generation takes it up in 1990, another generation takes it up in the 2020s, and maybe in another 30 years' time, another group of folk that remember the Keelie and things from their youth start it up again. So I'd like to think of it as a continuous stream.
Which is why places like the People's Palace is important.
Yes, that's right.
To reminding people of that history. That we're not going to find it in the Borough or Kelvin Grove.
That's right.
We're only going to find it there. And originally that was the campaign at the time, was the People's Palace and trying to close the place, and we're up against exactly the same thing, so it's probably timely that the Keelie comes out again, because that's when it started, the first attempt to shut the place. This being the second attempt.
That's right. There's been others as well. There's been others in the 60s and things as well. Aye.
So the Keelie's has been a major news carrier in both these occasions.
That's right.
Historically.
Oh, the People's Palace in Glasgow Green, that's like a holy city for us, really, because they say, you know, some of the Marxist group talk about the party being the memory of the class. I don't really agree with that myself. I think there's more an in-depth thing going on within the people themselves. And part of that, I think, in Glasgow is the People's Palace. That's the memory of the class. That's the memory of the people. So it's something that's really worth protecting, and it's good to see whenever a threat for the palace does come up, there is always a good response from the folk in Glasgow to defend it.
And of course, the Workers' City, the book, covers a lot of activities, but free speech and different.
Yes, that's right. That was covering the free speech in the Green from the 1930s, which is a part of the reason why the Green is so important to us, because folk got the jail for defending free speech and defending the right to assemble in the Green. So that's something that we want to highlight, let folk know about the hidden history of what's going on in the city, and we want to make sure that that's kept to the fore. I think even the vast majority of folk, if you ask them in Glasgow about the People's Palace or Glasgow Green, they know what it's about. They know it's about the people's memory. They know it's about the people's history. I don't think you have to explain too much, because folk know exactly what we're talking about when we deal with it. We always get a great response in the streets about it. And of course, another part of that tradition is the execution of during 1820 of right at the beginning of the Green, where the Glasgow radicals were on trial, and the execution took place there. So that's something we want to commemorate every year and bring that to keep that in the memory. There was a big campaign in Glasgow back in 1820. They realised there was a big injustice, and and they made sure that there was a good attendance at the execution, and there was a feeling that the people were very angry, but unfortunately never got around to stopping the execution. And that's something that we want to highlight as well. Of course, the other thing that we really want to highlight is that May Day, where traditionally the workers always came to the Glasgow Green to celebrate May Day, and there was some during the First World War and after, there was huge demonstrations of hundreds of thousands. So these days, of course, it's much smaller affair, but we want to keep a lively spirit going in the spirit of May Day. So that's another key part of our work, really.